Okay, I just admitted one more person. Get them in here and then. Okay, my name is Mary Rita Nelson, and I'm the president of the League of Women Voters from DeKalb County. And I want to introduce Steve McHugh and also Molly Holman Trickey. Steve was born and raised on the south side of Chicago, where his father was a Chicago policeman. He's currently Illinois chapter Be Smart co-lead. Prior to that, he was co-lead of Kane and Kendall County's Moms Demand Action local group and was a founding member of the Brady Chicago chapter. Steve worked as SVP of an international market research company for 42 years, retired in June last year, lives in Geneva with wife, former executive director of DuPage County Health Department, 2 grown and married daughters and 2 granddaughters of 5. Molly Trickey is also a member of Be Smart and the Moms Demand Action. She's a volunteer for both of those organizations. We want to let you know that tonight's presentation, it is not for or against guns. It is simply addressing how we can keep guns safe. And with that, I want to turn it over to Steve McHugh.
Thank you, Mary. And hello, everyone. And Molly, thank you for setting all of this up. So just a little bit of background on Be Smart. We are a national organization. We are part of Everytown for gun safety. We are a sister company to Moms Demand Action. We are not part of Moms Demand Action. We are a sister company of it under the Everytown for gun safety umbrella. And we focus on education and resources for secure storage of firearms. So what do we do? We mainly do presentations on secure storage at school boards, city council meetings. We do tabling events such as at farmers markets, safety fairs. Molly and I were at DeKalb High School back in fall, I believe it was, at their safety fair. National night out where the community meets with the police departments, fire departments, first responders, and so on, and interact with them. We also do gun shows because we want to interact with the people who are gun owners. We've done those at Kane and McHenry County. So again, we'll hand out different materials such as what I have here, explaining what Be Smart is and why it's important to secure your firearms. So the SMART in Be Smart stands for, it's an acronym. So starting with the S in SMART is secure all guns in your home and vehicles. The M is for model responsible behavior around guns. The A is ask about unsecured guns in other homes and vehicles. The R is recognize the role of guns in suicide. And the T is tell your friends and neighbors to be smart. We are endorsed by, and we are partners with the American Pediatric Association and the Illinois Pediatric Association. And one event we have coming up on May 7th, we work with, and we partner with different health departments. So Kane County Health Department, DuPage County Health Department, and the Cook County Health Department. So far, happy to partner with other health departments as well. On May 7th, we are doing a training for 60 staff members of Cook County, their entire behavioral health department, where we're teaching and training them and talking to them so that they can then talk to their patients about secure storage. Treating it as a public health issue, which it is. So that's some of the background on Be Smart. How do you secure firearms. What are some of the different resources for that? Starting with a cable lock, looks like this. We hand these out for free at the tabling events that I was talking about.
Wow.
Police departments hand these out. You can go to your sheriff's department, police department, a lot of health departments hand these out for free. If you were to buy these might cost somewhere in the neighborhood of $5. They are not these are nice. It is better than nothing. But for example, when we go to gun shows and we're handing these out, 90% of the gun owners will say, thanks, but no thanks. I've got a closet full of these. Licensed gun dealers are required by law to hand out some kind of lock with every gun that they sell. So they'll, usually give out something like this, which for them is the least expensive type of thing to hand out. So these are, you'll see in the presentation, in the research that we did that I'll be showing in just a minute, that these are the least desired and the least used kind of lock. It requires a key to open. So, most people say that they need to get to their gun quickly in case of a intruder or whatever. So this would take some time to open it, fumble with it a little bit and so on. So that's one type of lock. Another one is this simple combination lock. I think I mentioned if you were to buy this, it would cost about $5 or so. This is a simple combination lock, 3 digits that you just dial up. This is, I think it's really nice for cars or vehicles, that you can put your gun in this, close it up. What's important for these is it comes with a cable that can then attach around the the metal part of the seat underneath, so somebody can't just pick up the case and walk off with it. That's important because guns are stolen from vehicles more than any other place. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Something like this costs less than $20 on Amazon. So very inexpensive type of storage unit. And then the next thing I'm going to show, this is a little bit heavy, a little bit bigger. This is a biometric safe. So it opens 3 ways: with a key, with a combination, 4-digit combination, or to the point of getting to your gun quickly with a single fingerprint like that. So very quick to get in, less than a second to get in. Again, comes with a cable that you can lock down. It also has, I don't know if you can see, but it has holes in the bottom that you can screw this down to, like a drawer or a desk or something. Again, so somebody can't just walk off with it. Now, a lot of people think that those are fairly expensive, that biometric safe is expensive. Most people, when we ask, will guess somewhere in the neighborhood of $300 or $400. That safe that I just showed you costs $50. The average price of a pistol, of a gun, is $650. So the safe is less than 1% of the cost of the gun. So it's a very inexpensive solution. Or sorry, less than 10% of the cost of the gun. All right, so now I'm going to go into a survey that we conducted within the state of Illinois and share some findings with you. Any questions so far? Okay. All right, just to check, can you see my screen? You all might be on mute, but
Yeah,
hopefully
no, we can't.
you can't see the
We're not
screen.
saying anything yet. No.
Okay, maybe I need to share the screen.
There we go.
You
Nope.
can see it now.
No, sorry, that was me. I hit share screen by mistake.
Okay.
There we go. There we go. You got it.
All right. All right, so I'm going to give you a bit of background information and then get into the data. So why is secure storage important in the first place? Well, there's a significantly lower risk of self-inflicted firearm injuries, so suicide by firearm, and a significantly lower risk of accidental injuries for children and teens in households that lock up all their firearms. And that's really what we're trying to prevent is teen and child suicide and accidents. Also, nearly 80% of firearms used in school shootings by teens came from their parents' homes or homes of friends or relatives. So again, we want those locked up so that that can't happen. And then I kind of referred to this before, about 500,000 firearms are stolen each year, mostly from vehicles. So, you have the issue of, those firearms being out in the community. And we talk a lot about, most of what we talk about in securing firearms is the safety message. Well, not all gun owners have children or, feel that safety isn't the most important issue to them. So another message that we could be sending is just the cost and the hassle of having your firearm stolen. So that's a message that I think we need to get out there in a bigger way. So just some background on the survey itself. No groups or organizations have funded or associated as sponsors of this survey, including BSmart. As Mary mentioned up front, I worked for a market research company for 42 years. So I was able to design the survey and program it and chart it and analyze it. The reason that we did this is my co-lead and I really became the co-leads for Illinois about a year ago. It was a year ago, April. And at that time, we set the goal to increase awareness and actual practice of secure storage of firearms year over year. We really want to decrease those accidents and suicides, but we want to measure the things that we can control. If, for example, the sale of firearms goes way up, those accidents and suicides are going to go way up as well, regardless of what we do. So what we can control, what we can try to control, is to increase the awareness and practice of storing those firearms, regardless of how many are sold. So the survey that we did in October of 23, so just 6 months ago, represents the benchmark wave. Again, the reason that we wanted to do this is the data that you're going to see does not exist anywhere, not even for the United States. And this was specifically done within the state of Illinois because that's what I lead or co-lead. So it's a state of Illinois sample of English-speaking people age 21 and older, because that's the age of that you can legally own a gun in the state of Illinois. The total sample size of 300. Average interview length was just over a minute. We wanted to keep it short because the longer the survey, the more people try to rush through it and the data becomes less reliable. Data was collected October 10th through 11th of 2023 on a SurveyMonkey platform. So this survey could be taken online, and almost 90% took it on their smartphone. The rest took it on a tablet or laptop. So who exactly are these people? For an online survey, it's people who join a panel. Some of you might have been on a online panel before. You're recruited online off of any site. Maybe it's a ad for a product or something, and it says, hey, make a few bucks by taking surveys. And you just join it. You take surveys, you get some points that you could later cash in for an Amazon card or something. So those are the people who are taking these surveys. Okay. Some of the audiences that we've presented to thus far, we started soon after the study was conducted and analyzed with, I live in Geneva, so it was at the Geneva Public Library, just some Kane County leaders, the mayor of Geneva, the state's attorney for Kane County. The sheriff couldn't make it, but he sent his undersheriff and a few other reps from the city and the county. We also presented to some state senators, a number of different violence prevention groups, State Representative Maura Hirschauer, Geneva City Council, National Gun Safety Consortium, Kane County Board, their public health meeting, the Illinois Alliance to Prevent Gun Violence, and now to you folks. That's just a partial list of who we've presented to thus far. So getting into the data now. This first question is, have you ever seen or heard information on how and why to store firearms safely? So we want to get a measure of awareness of the message. And 74% said that they have, pretty equal between males and females. It was highest in the central region of Illinois. So we have the Northeast, which is going to be Chicago and the suburbs. And you can see that that is by far the highest percentage of all the people that we interviewed. So this is a representative sample, meaning that if the majority of people live in Chicago, then the majority of the respondents for the survey are going to come from Chicago. So DeKalb would be in the Northwest. Northwest is going to include DeKalb, Rockford, the Quad Cities, and so on. Central, of course, is going to be Springfield, Bloomington, Normal, Champaign, and then the South, East St. Louis, Carbondale, and so on. So 90% awareness in central Illinois. These letters A and B means there's a significant difference between A, which is Northeast, and B, which is Northwest, meaning that if you did this same survey 100 times, 95% of the times this difference would occur, so that you are confident that this difference is real. Okay. Also, highest awareness in rural areas and among gun owners. So gun owners are very aware of the message. 85% of them, significantly higher than those who do not own firearms. And again, part of that could be because of what I was talking about before. They're given one of these cable locks here, so they are aware of the message. these are different types of ads. This is actually from the Brady campaign. This was a billboard that we saw and just took a photo of. Again, it talks about safety, that it's not good enough to just store, hide your gun in a drawer because children are curious. They're going to find it, and that's how accidents happen. So this is overall ownership of firearms in Illinois. So we don't come right out and say, do you own a gun? The question is, if there are any firearms in your household or in any of your household's vehicles, how are they stored? And they can say, we don't have any guns in our home or vehicles. So 42% of Illinois households claim to have firearms. Okay, highest in central and southern Illinois, and in rural areas, significantly higher than urban or suburban, 57%. And then the real question that we're getting to, that we want to set as the benchmark to improve upon year over year, is, again, if there are any firearms in your household or in your household's vehicles, are they, the blue is all locked, 60% claim that all of their firearms are locked. The green is some are locked, and the brownish color is 22% say none of my guns are locked. Lowest in rural areas. You would think that those with children in the household would be much more likely to lock up all of their guns. They aren't. 63% versus 58% among those without children is not a significant difference. It's a very little difference. Where the difference occurs is that some of their guns are locked up. 24% versus this 10% is a significant difference. And we hear that when we talk to firearm owners. It's we were talking to one guy at a gun show, and he said, yeah, I have grandkids in the house. I lock up all of my guns except for the one I need to get to quickly. It's like, well, it only takes one unlocked firearm to have a tragedy in the house. So this is something we really want to work on. Again, it's not good enough to just lock up some of your guns. Okay. This was a question that we asked among those who do not currently have firearms. It's, if you were to obtain a firearm, how would you most likely store it? So the majority said they would use a lock, safe, or case, not biometric. And then second most likely would be a biometric safe. Again, I think that is because, I personally would prefer a biometric lock, but again, I think there's a perception that they cost a lot more than they do. So that's some education that we have to be working on. The good news here is that only 6% said they would store it in an unlocked area, such as a drawer or a nightstand, such as what we just saw on the billboard that we showed. The least likely, the least desired type of storage would be with that cable lock that I had mentioned before. So that's among those who do not currently own. This is among those who do currently own a firearm. So 42% have a firearm in the home. And among all firearm owners, 99% of them have one in their home. So only one person said that they have one in the vehicle, but not the home. So how do they store them? 26%, so over a quarter of them do not lock up their guns within their home. Most likely to have it in a lock, safe, or case, a biometric safe, or other type of locker safe. And again, least likely to use a cable or a trigger lock. We also wanted to look at this among different income groups. So we split this out by those that have household incomes of less than $50,000, 50 to 100,000, and 100 or more. Just first looking at firearm ownership overall, it comes out to 43% own a gun among the lower income, 41% in the middle income, and 46% in the upper income. So really no meaningful difference in owning a firearm, even though they're fairly expensive at an average cost of $650. No difference among income groups on owning at least one firearm. And you would think because the cable locks are either free or inexpensive that they would be used most by the lower income. That is not the case. You know, conversely, you would think that biometric safes, which are more expensive, and the perception is a lot more expensive, you would think that those in the upper income would be using those more, and that is not the case either. Where there was a significant difference is the percentage who store them unlocked in their home. And that's the upper income, which might come as a surprise, but it's the upper income who are least likely to lock up their guns. One reason for that might be because they own more guns. So, you know, they might lock up some of their guns, but not all of them. Now we move to how they store their firearms within their vehicles. So starting with 22% of all Illinois households have a firearm in their vehicle, in their car or truck. If you remember, just a couple slides ago, we showed that within the home or overall, rural areas are much more likely to have a gun. That is not the case for a gun within your vehicle. It's almost equal. Urban 24%, suburban 21%, and rural 25%. So almost equal across different types of areas within Illinois. And the most likely way to store a gun within your vehicle within the state of Illinois is in the trunk, in the glove box, under the seat, or other unsecured place within their vehicle. 50% store it that way, and that's why we have so many stolen guns out of vehicles. This was one of the biggest findings to the most interesting finding to the audiences that we presented to. And then again, looking across income groups, it was the upper income that are least likely to lock up their guns within their vehicles. And then lastly, this is a chart on the question here is when your children or teens visit friends or other homes, do you or someone else ever ask about the presence of firearms and how they are stored? We ask this question because that's one of the things that Be Smart really focuses on, is that even if you yourself do not have firearms in your home, you know, it's a high chance that your neighbor or, you know, someone else that your child is going over to their house, they might have it. So we want to normalize the conversation and ask about firearms in the home in the same way we would ask about, you know, do you have a dog in the house, for example, because my child is afraid of dogs or whatever. So 37% claimed that, yes, they do ask that question. And it is more likely that they ask that question if they have heard about the secure storage message, whether it be from BSmart or elsewhere. So 42% among those who are aware of the message versus 23% who have not heard the message. So the ask of asking about guns in other households is getting through, from our messaging on that. So Molly, would you like to talk about a little bit about how you go about normalizing that question when your children go to other households?
Sure, thanks, Steve. My name's Molly Tricky, and I'm a volunteer with Be Smart. I got interested in it because specifically the term normalizing the conversation about firearm storage. Because talking to other parents about it can feel awkward, it can feel overly personal. Right now, it can even feel kind of political. So it's a hard conversation to have. And Be Smart had some really good resources, great ideas for how to talk to other parents. One of the things that's worked the best for me is just having very casual conversations that lean into that awkwardness. So starting off my conversation with them with, I know this is a weird question, or I know this is personal, or I know this is really awkward. And so they understand where I'm coming from. And say, hey, we're so happy that our kids are getting together. Quick question for you. Do you have any firearms in your house, and how are they stored? And I've never had anyone come back to me in an aggressive way or an offended way. In fact, everybody has either come right out and said, we don't have a firearm, or we do, and it's locked up, or I don't know. And I've been surprised how many parents don't know. So when a situation like that comes up, then I usually just say, hey, let's do the play date at my house, or let's go out and meet in a park. Try not to turn them away and make them feel like we don't want to be friends, but let's find some options that are safe for both our children. I think as our kids start to grow, sometimes we forget about their curiosity, how it's growing as well, and also how their physical strength is growing. And I know things that I used to hide from my kids in one desk drawer now need to go up onto the cabinet. And now as they're getting bigger, now they need to go somewhere else and get higher and higher and more locked up, because kids are curious and kids get physically stronger and they get taller. Where you hid your kids' Christmas presents when they were 4 is not going to work out for your teenager. And the way you store your firearm also reflects this. One story that really impacted me, an experience we had, my family was sitting around a fire in a friend's backyard. Had a bachelor friend who occasionally has a little nephew come up over to visit, but in general, never has kids around. And there had just been a recent mass shooting, and the adults were chatting about that. And we didn't think that the nephew was around with us, but he pipes up in the background, hey, I know where Uncle Steve's gun is. And everybody just kind of freezes, mouths drop open. And he says, it's in a box in the basement office. And this kid has been at the house, about once a week for years. And nobody ever thought this kid might go into the basement and then into the office and then into the bottom drawer and then into a shoebox in the back. But kids will do it. And it's not the kid's responsibility. It is the adult's responsibility. It's our responsibility to secure the firearms, to communicate the message with other adults, to make sure that we're asking that question and normalizing the issue.
Great points, Molly. Thank you. Thank you for that. And, other analogies are, what if the children are getting older, maybe they're teens? You would ask, for example, if they're going to a person's house at a party, and say, is there going to be alcohol there? And I'm asking because, my son's on the football team or whatever, the swim team. And if he is at a party with alcohol, he will be thrown off the team. So again, normalizing the question about firearms in the same way. As Molly said, it's a non-judgmental question. It's, you know, I don't care if you have guns in your home or not, but if you do have guns, how are they stored? You know, rather be safe than sorry. So thank you for those examples, Molly. So that's the data that we have. Just what are some of the actions that can be taken, and what is our ask of the different communities and audiences that we have presented this to? I think some of the low-hanging fruit is to post information or videos on your, on your websites or other communications, encouraging secure storage of all firearms, not just some, all firearms in homes and especially in vehicles. So asking the city councils and so on, just put something on your website about, you know, remembering to lock up your vehicle at night, and to either take your gun, if it's stored in the vehicle, inside the house at night, or keep it locked up, secured in the car, not just in the glove box or under the seat or something. Communicate both the theft and cost, hassle prevention, and safety benefits. So not just safety, but also, hey, do you really want your $650 gun to be stolen? Biometric and other safe case raffles, giveaways, rebates, and tax breaks. So one of the interesting things that we learned as we were going to different communities presenting this is that the village of Glen Ellen in DuPage County gives builds into their annual budget a rebate of up to $100 for any kind of safe or lock that you buy. So say that I go out and buy, this $50 biometric safe. I can take that receipt to Glen Ellen and get reimbursed for that $50. As I was showing those safes, one thing I didn't mention is, what if I have a rifle? That's not going to fit into any of these safes. They make larger rifle safes as well, biometric safes, and those aren't overly expensive either. You can get one on Amazon for about $150. Again, just a fraction of the price of the rifle itself. So that is also something that people really clung on to is, let's do that in other communities, not just Glen Ellen. Let's do it for the entire county or the entire state for that matter. The state of Virginia gives I believe it's up to $300 tax break in the same way Glen Ellen does, but it's a tax break rather than just a straight rebate for the price of a safe or a lock. Clarify the safe and case prices. Again, they're much less expensive than a lot of people think. Spread the word, secure additional audiences. If you know of different audiences who would be interested in this data and could take action on this data, contact me at these email addresses, and I'd be happy to come out and present to them in person or via Zoom. Other ideas that have come up in these presentations, the auto industry. How about offering optional secured gun safes within vehicles so that they're not stolen from vehicles? I just recently learned that Ford and Dodge do that now. They offer optional secured gun safes within their vehicles. The insurance industry, how about offering discounts or penalties for secure firearm storage? This was mentioned by our county's state's attorney. as an idea. And her thought was, well, I pay less for health insurance if I'm a non-smoker. Or I pay less for auto insurance if I'm a safe driver. So how about doing the same thing for secure storage? And how exactly do you do that? Well, if you can prove, well, I haven't had a gun stolen, and that could be because I don't own a gun, or just simply because it wasn't stolen, or I secure my firearms, you get a discount on your insurance in some way. So those are just some ideas that have come up from these presentations. So that's all the information that I have and some action steps. Are there any questions or ideas?
I have a question for the group. Is anybody else out there, a parent or a grandparent or a caregiver? Have they ever tried to ask this question, or have you found other ways about communicating with parents about firearms in the home and firearm storage? Or has anybody ever asked you?
Can you hear me? I unmuted myself. Is that okay?
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay. Yes, about 5 years ago, my parents both had been coming down with dementia, and I knew they had lived in a motorhome for about 10 years, and they were at my brother's, and I was concerned about. I knew my brother had weapons, and then I didn't know if he had had the discussion with my parents. So I did address that. I did ask him, just kind of like Molly, with a little bit of a soft intro there. And mom and dad are probably not able to have this discussion, but have you thought about their firearms? Have you checked on them? Are they locked up? And it turned out fine that he had, but yeah, I had that kind of a discussion in a different sort of way.
That's great. That's a hard one to have.
Yeah, because people can be sensitive. Yeah.
Yeah, and we just hear, and thank you for sharing that. We hear, just different stories at almost every event we went to. We were at a national night out in Elgin, and we were handing out those cable locks, free cable locks, and I overheard a 7-year-old boy talking to his mom saying, "Hey, can we get one of those cable locks for Grandpa? He keeps his gun on his nightstand, loaded gun, unlocked on the nightstand." And the 7-year-old boy was afraid that his 3-year-old sister was going to get a hold of it. And, so there's a 7-year-old boy, being protective of his sister. And it's like, yeah, of course you can have one. So we hear stories like that all the time.
No, thank you.
Any word on ammo?
I never asked anyone that question. My kids are grown now, but I never asked that question. But there was a time when my daughter, she babysat for our neighbor quite a bit. And she'd been doing it for a number of years and never crossed my mind to ask about a gun. And then while the gun was reasonably, stored presumably safely, the youngest or the oldest child was able to, had gotten it out. And I was like, oh, there's a gun in the house that the kid could get at. And so I'm really happy to hear about this. It's not really helping me anymore because like I said, my kids are grown, but I think it's a really important issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a law that's trying to be passed on a national basis. It's called Ethan's Law. It's after a boy named, I forget exactly how old he was when he died. But his name was Ethan Song, and he went over to a friend's house to play. And the friend found what he thought was a toy gun, aimed it at Ethan, pulled the trigger, and Ethan is dead. So yeah, I believe only 14 states have a law where the parent is liable for those incidents. And so that's being trying to be passed on a federal level.
Mm.
Steve, we've got a question in the chat. How do you keep the conversation from becoming about politics? Any tips for how to keep the conversation focused on safety?
Exactly that. Just focus on safety. As Molly's examples were, non-judgmental questions. Ask it in the same way you would about allergies or anything else. And this is, of all the different things about firearms, secure storage is the least political, and a lot of common ground. Again, when we go to gun shows, we get you get people who say, what good is a gun if it's locked up? You do have some of those comments, but by and large, it's common ground of, yeah, of course, you want to be safe with a firearm.
And I have something to add to that. Another way I think to talk to parents is to reference events or issues that all of us are aware of, things that have been happening in the news. You can say, I know this is awkward, but I saw this really sad report on the news about a toddler who got a hold of a weapon. It's just making me think again about kids and safety. And if you have any firearms in your house, how do you guys store them to keep them safe from the kids? So finding something that's a common experience that people may have seen in the news also keeps it from being a judgmental, something specifically aimed at them.
Let's see. I have another question. Actually, my husband does. We're watching this together. So is that okay if Ron asks a question? Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Can you mention something about the separation of ammo and the weapon itself? The weapon itself is kind of harmless in a way, but the ammo does the trick of the actual damage. What do you do with ammo, let's say, to separate it from the weapon itself in the home?
Yes, very good question. Thank you for that question. The gold standard and what we recommend is that the ammo is stored separately from the gun itself. So in a separate safe or locked drawer or something like that. That is what we recommend. Not everybody will do that. Again, the person who is using the gun for home security is going to say, I don't want to take, all the time that it's going to take to get my gun and then load it as a guy is breaking down my door. So, there are situations that people aren't going to do that and store it separately, but that is our recommendation. And again, what we consider our gold standard. Those who are using their firearm for hunting or sport shooting or anything else, there is no reason that you wouldn't store it separately, because when you're going to use the firearm, and you can just go get the ammo and the gun and then go on your way to hunt or whatever you're going to be doing.
I went to an event with Steve where we spoke with a lot of firearm owners, and it sounded like people who wanted easy access to their weapon, loaded or unloaded, were interested in those biometric safes. Steve was raffling one off, and there was a lot of interest in it because it seemed to be a solution for people who felt that they needed their firearm at hand, loaded, ready to go. But this is also a very safe way to store it.
Yeah, can access it very quickly. And again, the thing that people were shocked at was how inexpensive the safe was at $50. Again, when a gun costs at least $650. Yeah. One other story at the gun show in McHenry, one guy said, what good is that pistol safe? I own 138 guns. It's like, well, you're right. This safe isn't right for you, but you can buy a large rifle safe. So do the math. 138 guns times $650 at least per gun is $90,000. You can get a large rifle safe that you can store all 138 of those guns in, for less than 1%, for less than $900, for less than 1% of that $90,000 that your guns are worth.
I like this idea. My new husband has got a lot of guns. He's got, I think, 2 handguns, and then I don't know how many long guns he's had because he hasn't moved them into the house yet. He's moving with me. So I know what my first gift to him is going to be.
Exactly.
Biometric safe if he wants to, because he keeps saying, well, I keep the ammunition separate from the gun. And I'm thinking the same thing. Well, okay, if somebody breaks in, are you going to run and go get the ammunition and load the gun? I like the idea of the biometric safe. Keep it in the bedroom. Go ahead and keep that handgun with whatever rounds he wants in it, but secure it. But then he's actually had one or two of his long guns stolen in the past.
Yep.
And so I think the gun safe in the basement for those long guns, and there are a lot of them that are antiques. They're very expensive. It just seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, that's, I try to use social media as much as I can, and that's what I will post around Christmas time or other things of, hey, here's a gift idea, and say, here's a couple of different safes for whatever it is. Here's a rifle safe for $150 or a pistol safe for $50. Just a gift idea. Other questions or ideas?
Okay, it looks like we've gotten a lot of good information. We have recorded this, or I have recorded this. It will go on our League of Women Voters at DeKalb County YouTube channel. And then I think that Molly can then share it to our Facebook page. So, Steve, we really appreciate you coming tonight. I'm glad we didn't have a tornado this time.
Not yet.
And hopefully we can spread the word. I thank you so much. And thank you too, Molly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And yes, if there's other audiences that you think would like to see this, let me know.
Okay. Let me see. Stop recording right here. All right.